If wealth creation is important to you, you are going to love today's episode of the podcast. Today, I'm chatting to Molly Benjamin, the founder of the Ladies Finance Club, about simple, practical steps that you can do to build true wealth when it comes to managing your personal finances. I love this conversation, and I'm sure you will too. Let's go get rich. Just a quick note before we dive in. Everything I share on this podcast is general in nature and does not take your personal circumstances into account. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and nothing you hear on this podcast should be taken as personalized financial, business, taxation, or investment advice. Before you make any financial decisions, please seek guidance from your accountant or a qualified licensed financial advisor who understands your specific situation. A big warm welcome to the podcast, Molly. I might start by asking you to introduce yourself to the listeners, if that's okay.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for having me. My name is Molly Benjamin. I'm the founder of Ladies Finance Club. And really, our main goal at Ladies Finance Club is to help make Aussie women rich. And we do this a number of ways, but mainly through financial education, because a lot of us have just never learned about how to manage our money. We've learned how to earn it, but not how to grow it.
That is so true. Isn't it crazy that they don't teach this stuff at school?
They're still not teaching it either. I was like,
Mhm.
maybe it's changed. So I checked in. I went and spoke at a university the other day and I was like, are you guys learning about financial literacy? Nope.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, this is, as you can imagine, is the part of my mission on this planet because I sort of find the same with entrepreneurs. You know, people fall into the world of business ownership and aren't taught how to read a P&L, aren't taught how to manage their money. And
Yeah, I wasn't. I jumped into the world of business clueless about the world of business finance. It's a whole new ball game.
100%. It's really different. But I really wanted to bring you on and leverage your knowledge because wealth creation, like the listeners and myself, like we are all passionate about creating wealth, about becoming rich. And, you know, it was funny because even that these words can be quite triggering, I
Yeah.
find for some people. So maybe let's start there. And then I want to go in and dive into some practical strategies as well. But why do you think that people, particularly women, get really triggered by the word rich?
Oh, such a good question. A couple of things on that one. So when we think of rich women, what do we think of? Like, if we have to think of rich women,
Do you
like,
know the first thing that used to spring to mind for me? Rich bitch.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And like when I think of the movies, it's the like I used to love Pride and Prejudice, but like all the really rich characters were really evil.
Yes.
Crazy Rich Asians, the mom's a psycho, Cruella de Vil, psycho, like Mean Girls, the mom's like she was the mean rich one. Like so we have very few female role models who are rich and good people. Like there's not a lot of them, but when we think of wealthy men, like there's so many and they're always good looking and they're always charming. But so I think the first one is like we can be triggered by the word rich because we don't associate being rich with being good. We can see it as being selfish, being bad, being evil. And if you think being wealthy is those things, what happens when you start earning money? You might not even realize, but you're self sabotaging. You're getting rid of it. You're giving it away. You're spending it. You're not wanting to deal with it. The other thing is, I think we need to define the word what rich is because what the word rich is for me might be very different to you, to my twin sister, Rihanna. So, for example, I do this in a couple of our classes. I'll be like, what does a rich life mean to you? And some women will say it's literally being able to pick up my kids from school. Others will say it's flying business class. Others will be like, it's not having to check when my pay comes in because I have enough money in my bank account. So, actually defining what is your rich life and what does that mean to you can be a good starting point and actually exploring the word and not just going, oh, rich is bad. But I have to pull people up on it all the time because they'll be like, they're in a Mercedes. What a dick. And you're like, why? Because they're wealthy. Okay, well, that says more about your beliefs about money than that person.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too how what we think changes over time.
Yes.
Like I remember that, when I was younger, I used to think if someone's a millionaire, that is like the ultimate. And then over time, you kind of go, well, actually, what that means and looks like can change over time.
You know what? It was so funny because I heard an ad on the radio yesterday and it was that scratchy and you can win $25,000 a year for every year. And I was like, that doesn't get you a whole lot these days. Like when I was younger, I'd be like, whoa, imagine having that much money. And I'm like, yeah, you still need a lot more than that.
Yeah, well, my first job, I worked as an accountant.
Yep.
I remember I was on $35,000 a year. And at the time, I was like, I've made it.
Yeah.
I'm rolling in the dough. I bought my first house with a salary of $40,000 a year. And I think that, you look at that in today's terms and you're like, whoa, times really have changed. And another thing that I'm observing as well in the age of social media is I think that people's expectations around lifestyle and, there's a lot that people are trying to look like, be like because
Yeah.
of the influence of social media. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. And then it's so easy to do it as well because they'll be like, oh, and you can shop here. Just click this link. Boom, boom, boom.
Hmm.
We've already got your credit card details saved on file. Boom, boom, boom. So never has it been easier to spend as well. So that's definitely something, yeah, we're seeing. And it's hard. Like, we try not to compare ourselves, keep up with the Joneses, or as I call it now, keeping up with the Kardashians. But when you're constantly being hit with these ads and these different influencers, it can be a real challenge to not spend online.
Absolutely. I have to admit, I am the same. Like the ability to impulse buy it's so much harder than it used to be. When you had to go and get like physically go get your wallet and take
Yeah.
some cash out. And now it's like a click of a button and you're buying.
Yeah, it's that invisible spending where it's just like boom, boom, boom. Even with like Uber Eats,
Yeah.
when you're not actually having to put like through the transaction, just automatically happens. I think they're the most dangerous ones.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so first thing I'm picking up on is that you're talking about like get clear about what your rich life looks like.
Yeah,
What does rich mean for you? And it doesn't have to mean the Mercedes or the, you know,
no,
Ralph Lauren clothes, whatever.
yeah.
It can simply be more freedom. What are some other things that you see people identify as their rich life? You said picking up the kids from school.
I mean, the biggest one overall is freedom over time. And I
Yeah.
think that, and the more like I speak to really successful women, that's what they have. They've got freedom over their time, and that is priceless.
Mm,
So I think a lot of it comes back down to the control over your
mm.
life. But I do get surprised with how often I will speak to, and I mean, I shouldn't be that surprised because I was exactly the same. Surprised I speak to people and I'm like, great. So what's the goal? What are we working towards? They're like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, well, so much of our money, our mindset, our budgeting, it comes back to like, what are we trying to achieve with our money? If we don't know what we're trying to achieve with our money, it's going to be like, it's like literally playing a game of football without goals. You're just kicking a ball around. You're going to get bored really quickly. So I would say, yeah, coming back to that question, freedom of time is the biggest one.
Yeah, totally, totally. And it's interesting, isn't it? Again, I find women, because the work that we do is so parallel. A lot of business, so the first thing I do is like, what are your goals? There's so many, they're like, people often go, I want to make 500,000 or $1 million a year. And I'm like, but why? What do you actually want? And there's some stat, I can't remember exactly what it is, but something like 90% of people never set themselves goals. Does that feel about right?
I don't know what the stat is, but I would say from what I'm seeing, that would probably be pretty close to it.
Yeah.
Unless they're obviously a ladies' finance club lady. And I drill it into them like every time we chat. I'm like, what's the goal? What's the goal? What are we working towards? But yeah, I think we get into business for a passion, for a love, because we've found this
Mm,
unique problem that we can solve, but we haven't actually kind of gone, okay, what are the financials on this? Does this make
mm.
money?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are the figures?
And I love that because the thing is too, when you're clear about what you want, it makes that. that desire, like all the things that it feels like you're inverted commas sacrificing, and we'll dive into that later because I don't really love that word, but like it makes you go, hey, we're really hungry for this. So
Yeah.
one of the things at the moment, like my hubby and I, we want to build our dream house. We've got our dream block of land. We want
Yeah.
to build the dream house. And so when we're doing things like I got my nails taken off for the first time in I don't know how long, and you go, it's worth it. Like the sacrifices that you go, okay, you know what? That's not that important to me. I'm happy to cut back there. But other areas I go, I am not happy to cut back on my hair. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that. So great place to start is with the goals and the mindset around it. Let's start to talk about some of the practical things because as we are heading into a new year, it's a beautiful time to reevaluate these things. I think when people think about chasing down goals, what's the first sort of thing when someone comes to you and they go, oh my gosh, I'm coming into Molly's world, I'm joining the finance
Yeah.
what do you think that people initially think? What are their
Of,
first?
of like what they need to be doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would say most of them come to me because they're like, I don't even know where to start. I know I've got to do
yeah.
heaps of stuff. So I always have like a bit of an order for them to be like, if you
Hmm.
don't know what the first goal is, let me help you. And it is always like, let's work out your net worth. Like, what are you currently worth on paper?
Hmm.
Super simple. We're going to list out your assets. So like things in your life that make you money or are of value, like your properties, your super, cash in the bank. And then we're going to list out your liabilities. So things you owe money on. So it might be a mortgage. So the value of your property would be the asset, the mortgage would be the liability, any car loans, personal loans, credit card debts. And then we can have a starting point. And sometimes this shocks people. They're like, oh gosh. Other times people are like, oh, I'm actually doing a lot better than I thought. And they can choose whether, I think as well, when they include their super in that, they do get a little bit of a surprise. They're like, oh, this is
Hmm.
looking all right. So go, okay, what is the net worth? And then I like to do mine monthly to just check in with it. Some people like to do it 6 monthly, yearly. That's up to you. Do it with your partner if you have a partner. And then I always say the next goal is if you don't have an emergency fund, an OMG fund, because I like to call them OMG funds, you've got to set that up. So high interest bank account, fee free in your name only. And even women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they still won't have this set up. So that's why I'm always like, you know what? Doesn't matter what age you're starting from, if you're restarting from the beginning, you've come out of a separation, divorce, you're widowed, we need to get this emergency fund up with 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And from there, it's looking at your spending plan. Now, I'm
Before we dive into that, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I'd love to go a little bit deeper because there was something you said in there that I want to go a little bit further into. You used the phrase your name only.
yeah.
So talk to me about that.
So this is your emergency fund, not your partner's. And a big thing I'm very passionate about in Ladies Finance Club is you've always got your own back. So if something happens to your partner, and it might not even be that, something bad happens, like they, run off or they take all the money. It might be that there's a legal issue and your assets get freezed. You always want to have access to your own money in case of an emergency. And yeah, so that's why I always say it has to be in your name. You have to be the only one who has access to it. I'm not saying don't keep it a secret from your partner because, like how would you like if they were keeping secret money from you? So definitely they should have money in their own emergency fund as well. But it's a thing, it's very important for that independence to always have that kind of 3 months, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I actually did a session inside my mastermind. We had a lawyer come and talk about wills, and she had said that when you like go to the banks or say that my partner's passed away, they will freeze your
Yeah.
bank accounts. And my eyes were like dinner plates. I was like, what? No, joint bank accounts. She said they will freeze joint bank accounts until like I can't remember what it's called. It's like the settlement
Which can be
has
ages.
gone through. Yeah, which can be several months. And she
Yeah.
gave the exact same advice. That's a really, really good point there. Thank you.
Yeah. And even if you want to take it to the next step further, I would say you have your own emergency funds, but then you have your partnership, you and your partner's emergency fund as well. I was speaking to a lady recently and her partner's business recently just out of the blue went under. They weren't expecting it. One of the business partners had walked out and they didn't have emergency fund. They only had like 1 month's worth of an emergency fund. So then they're all of a sudden in this really tricky situation where they've had to borrow money from friends and family. They've had to sell things. So we always want to make sure that we've got that money there in case of an emergency. This is making sure this is your own safety net.
And people are instantly going to say, because I know, particularly entrepreneurs, we can tend to be overly optimistic. We always think, well, that wouldn't happen to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I guess from someone who speaks to a lot of women about money, like it can happen. And when
A
it does,
hundred
and if
percent.
it does happen, because life happens, and it might not be, the business, the business partner, or it might be another COVID. It might be you get sick. It might be your partner gets sick, a child gets sick. It might be you need to fly to another location to be with a family member. Might be you've decided that you need to just take a break from work for a while for your mental health. Whatever it is, you want to have that control, that access, and that's what having the control over your money gives you back.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And sorry that I derailed it, but I just thought it was really important because you just sort of said as a little throwaway sense. I'm like, hang on, there's a bit more behind
Yeah.
that. Okay, so first things first, get your emergency fund set up 3 months. What do you do next?
I would say make sure you've got a spending plan that works for you. Now, I am teaching at the moment the Glenn James spending plan. I don't know if you know Glenn from Money, Money, Money. I love he's got a really great podcast in Australia, but he has this spending plan that and it's the best one I've come across, and we've started teaching it. So really high level, you've got all your money coming into a cash hub, and then you've got an automatic transfer every week, and that's going into your weekly spend. So the weekly spend account's the only card you have in your phone, in your wallet, and it's for like the food, fuel, groceries, entertainment going out. And once that money for the week is gone, that money for the week is gone. And then off the cash hub, you also set up an account for your emergency fund, your another one for like clothes, Christmas, holidays, like the fun fund, but the ones where you need a bit of a saving goal for. And then also you can have some different goals. So an account for goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, and everything's on a weekly transfer. So no matter if you get paid monthly, fortnightly, or you get lump sums, the money all still goes into the cash hub, but you're just working off a weekly budget as opposed to trying to manage everything monthly, which can kind of feel like a lot. So that's an interesting one. So it's just about finding, like, that's one option, but really I would say the spending plan that works for you is the spending plan that works for you. So if you've got a system that works, great. But what I find is a lot of people try and budget in their head, and that just probably isn't going to work. So after that, I would say, yes, that's when you kind of look at, okay, what am I doing with my spending, making sure you're putting away for your goals. And then I'm a huge, huge fan of investing and getting everyone investing. I say it's like, if you're an adult, you brush your teeth. It's like the adult version. Sorry, the child version is brushing your teeth every day. The adult version is investing all the time when you can, even if it's just small amounts. And I think so many women get scared of investing because they're like, I'm going to lose all my money. I don't know what to invest in. But there's so many ways now where you can spread your risk. There's products out there like exchange traded funds. So you're putting your money across hundreds, sometimes thousands of companies, and you don't even have to choose. It's great in the one go. And so, yeah, huge advocate then for investing your money as well.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, a couple of things let's go a bit deeper into. So coming back to splitting your money out, most of my listeners are running businesses.
Yeah.
We have incomes that, well, as you know,
Yeah.
they can be all over the place. And a lot of times, you don't actually know how much money you're going to be bringing in the coming month. How would you suggest that business owners navigate fluctuating incomes?
I would say, and again, when you're starting out a business, it can be really tricky because you don't know what your average is. But I would say look at the smallest amount you have coming in a month and budget it off that. So then it means anything additional is in that cash hub and it's
Yeah,
still
cool.
accruing. But I pay like for me personally, I pay myself the same amount every month, no matter if I make more, make less. So that's the way I personally do it. But I think it can be really challenging for business owners when it's really lumpy. So some months will be huge and then other months it will be nothing. So that's again why I like having just the one place where the money is just accruing all the time.
Yeah, love that. Love that. And of course, me being me, I would be like, well, when you're getting strategic with your business, you can be, I'm encouraging people to be looking ahead and saying, okay, well, if I know that that's coming up, what am I going to do? What am I launching? What am I selling? Like, how am I actually taking back control of my volatile income if I know that that's the nature of my business?
And speaking of just like business finance, this is just something I don't know how I didn't know this, but it was only very recently I learned, and this is embarrassing, but I didn't realize you could have your business money in a high interest savings account. Like you could be making interest, like good interest on the money that was in your business account. I was like, oh, that could have definitely made me money. But hey, I now know. Yeah, I didn't know you could use it for other things. I just thought, oh, it has to stay in there, it has to stay in the business account. So yeah, that's
So
really
again, I think the big thing I've worked with a lot of business owners and different people do different things. And I think the big thing I'm always like, get advice from your accountant
yes.
about
I
how to
mean,
do that, how to navigate that.
I meet with my
Yeah.
accountant once a month and I'm always like, explain it to me like I'm five.
I love that, Molly, because do you know what? Most business owners don't. So there you go. I love that. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper into becoming a rich woman. So we've spoken about having the hubs. What if people, and I want to go there because I know that a lot of business owners are there. And not just business owners, actually, a lot of people. What about when people are quite literally living beyond their means? So we know that this is a systemic problem in Australia because of our debt levels. We know that with the rising cost of living, there are people who are like, I don't even know how I'm staying afloat, quite frankly, because I'm outspending what I'm earning. And a lot of people just like to live in blind ignorance.
Yeah.
If I just pretend it's not
Yeah.
happening and I just
Yeah.
don't look at the credit card bill, hopefully I just keep
Yeah.
paying the minimum and trying to just keep struggling
Yeah.
through. What do people then do if that's their circumstance?
I mean, I think that's where you have to get sick of your own, if I don't want to swear,
Yes,
your
you're
own
allowed to swear
shite.
on this
And just
podcast.
that's when you've got to say, okay, I'm sick of my own shit and I've got to make a change because we can teach you all the systems, we can teach you how to do it all. But unless you decide that you want to change, you're probably not going to change. And
Yeah.
so I think there's definitely little things you can do to help yourself with that. So definitely like actually work out where is your money currently going. And my new favorite hack for that is obviously there's lots of budgeting apps out there like WeMoney, Frollo, Billroo, but just stick a CSV file into ChatGPT and ask it to categorize your spending for you. And a lot of the time, your money will probably be going to places it doesn't need to be going. And that's where you need to be like, just wait, is that where I want my money to be going? All this, like, I'm going out, I'm spending all this time earning money. Is this where I'm wanting that energy to go? But I think, like, until you have that wake up call, no one else can have that wake up call for you. It's got to be that mindset shift of, and I
Yeah.
know for me, it was like, for me, because I was a real hot financial mess for a very long time, I was just like, I can't keep living with this stress of
Mm.
like not knowing what's going on with my money. It's just too stressful. And that like had a bit of an embarrassing moment in a supermarket. That was my rock bottom moment where I was like, things need to change for things need to change for things need to change. Like, so, and then it's about getting the support and getting the help if you can't do it by yourself. There's money coaches, there's debt counselors, but I would speak to quite a lot of women and they're using credit cards. And I'm like, why? And they're like, oh, it just helps me manage my money. And I'm like, well, then you're not doing like in the nicest way possible. I say it in a lot politer terms, but you're not doing a very good job if you're relying on credit cards to manage your money. Same with buy now, pay laters. If you're doing it for points, you've got a system, you've got it worked out, go you. But for, I would say, yeah, a lot of people, they're just too reliant on these credit cards, and it's not doing them any favors, because you can never build your financial foundations if you're constantly in debt. And like,
Yeah.
you don't want to get to another 5 years of your life and still have not made 1 cent, which is
Yeah.
what happens.
Do you know, I had a moment, you've just reminded me of it, it's many years ago. I was living in London at the time, and this Excel spreadsheet did the rounds, and it said, how much are your nights out costing you?
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
it'd be like, how do you get out? I catch a taxi. How many drinks do you have? Do you get McDonald's on the way home? Which was for me at the time, I used to get this
yeah. Oh,
horrendous
yeah.
cottage chicken.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. No,
oh, yuck.
deep fried chicken.
Seems like a really good idea when you've had a night out. And so anyway, what this spreadsheet did was it spit out a number, and it said, this is how much you have spent on nights out in your life. And I remember looking at that number and feeling sick and thinking, I could have paid off a quarter of a house. I could have, and you just sort of have that moment where you're like, what am I doing? This is
Yeah.
such a waste. I'd love to pretend that that was the start of me not
Yeah.
going out anymore. It wasn't, but it was just a real,
Right?
it was a very eye-opening moment, put it that way.
And that's the thing. Like, when you're getting on top of your money, it doesn't mean you're saying no to the fun
Yeah.
anymore. And like, I love, like, especially when I was younger, I loved my nights out. Like, they were the things I would have prioritized probably more than anything. I'm like, no one's taken that off me.
Yeah.
Like, it could have come with balance. Absolutely. Like, I can still have a night out, but just even the way you spend on those nights out, the rounds of drinks, the choosing the expensive cocktails, like, there's different decisions you could make that I definitely could have made. So I could have had the best of both worlds. And I think when I got back to Sydney, especially after being in the UK, I started having like those conversations, and I'd be like, my girlfriends would be like, let's go for dinner. They'd choose a really expensive restaurant in Sydney. And I'd be like, can we go for the happy hour tacos? And they'd be like, oh, good. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm trying to save money too. So I would just kind of be like, guys, let's go for a walk and a coffee. I'm not doing the super expensive dinner, which I know will just, like, it's just a waste. And I love to do it for special occasions, but also I don't just need to do it because it's a random Tuesday night. Like,
Yeah,
so I think it's just
absolutely.
setting yourself some boundaries. And it's interesting, being pregnant, I'm not buying any clothes. Nothing fits me. But I will literally, like, I had this realization, because I'm always working on my money mindset and my money journey. But I walked through Westfield and I didn't want to buy anything. And I was like, wow, like, this is never, like, I've always been quite pulled into, I just have a little pop in, let me just have a look at what's around. I was just like, nah, not interested. It's just not, I've got too much stuff in my life already. I don't want to add more to it anymore. I want less. So I've gone to the stage now where I'm like, less is more. Like, I have a pair of boots. I've had them since 2019. I've got them rehealed twice. I love that I've got them rehealed twice. I'm like, that just saved me, like, if you're spending $250 on a new pair of boots every year or two, that's saved me so much money, and I'm not putting extra, like, waste into the economy. Anyway, sorry, that's me. Matt's over.
No, no, no. I love it. I love it. And I think that it's really helpful because people are probably listening and thinking, well, how do I know like, how do I know what's my, like, no, I love that. What if people are like, I love everything that's in my life and I don't want to cut any of it back? Then what do they do then?
Well, then you got to get clearer on your goals
Yeah.
and get goals that you're more excited about.
Yeah.
Because yeah, there has to be a give and take. And if you're spending too much, you can only do two things: earn more or spend less. That's it.
Yeah. Ah, that's beautiful. It sounds so simple,
It
and
does.
yet it's so hard to
So
do, isn't it?
simple, so
Um,
hard. Yeah.
And sometimes I think too, we had a bit of a moment early this year and we are just stripping everything back. And then that's where you really find out actually what really is important to you. Me getting my nails taken off, I know that's an example I keep coming back to, but I actually came to it. I'm like, it was really actually annoying having to go in once a
It's
fortnight when you've got
not.
little kids and soccer and all the things. And for me, I'm like, it's actually just been a really nice break. We cut our cleaner back. We spent most of the year without a cleaner. And I had the realization actually that doesn't serve when we are two entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We We do need some help around our house, but
Yeah.
I kind of had to have that swing back the other way to then go, okay, what is the happy medium? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And yeah, land at a place that is sustainable. Cool. Okay, so you've given us some really wonderful big tips. There's one last thing that I want to touch on because, again, I feel this is a little bit of an area that a lot of business owners in particular can be ignorant with. Actually, all people can be a little bit ignorant of. When we think about saving, putting money aside, investing, all that, we think about, okay, cut back the daily coffees, don't go on big nights out.
Yeah.
Where is that area? It's a bit of an unsexy area, but what's a couple of things that people just tend to ignore and they're like, that just it is what it is. I'm stuck with that. What are those big areas that you notice that can really be needle shifters that people often don't pay attention to?
I think a really big one, and the one that can probably have one of the biggest impacts on your overall finances, is actually your super. And I know business owners sometimes we're not the best at putting away for our super, but again, it just has to be a non-negotiable. It's just got to be part of being a business owner, and actually working out where is your super being invested, what fund are you in, because people go, oh, I'm in this fund, or I don't know, I'm in a default fund. Default fund generally means balance fund because you haven't chosen, it's a default fund. Just choosing, like, and obviously this is not financial advice and it depends on your circumstances and your how close to retirement you are, but even just switching from a balance fund to a high growth fund, that can mean $50 to $100,000 extra at retirement. Like, that is huge. That is massive. Likewise, with just investing $50 every month or every week or every month, whatever you can do, this all compounds over time. So, yes, you can be, cutting back on your nails or not getting the coffee here or there, but sometimes it's those bigger financial questions and those bigger financial pieces that we ignore that will have a much bigger impact on our finances. Likewise, with where your savings, are you keeping them in a high interest account or just a normal transaction account? Like, if you've got $10,000 in a 5% interest rate, that's $500 you're making every year on that money, as opposed to $20 if it's just in a normal transaction account. Like, that's just free money. Why not? And then the other thing I always say as well is just be making sure you're negotiating on your bills. So just, if you haven't, just set maybe I don't know, a Saturday afternoon or a Friday afternoon aside, or if you're working full time, like, it's worth just taking off the 2 to 3 hours, writing out who your suppliers are, your internet, your Wi-Fi, your gas, electricity, your health insurance, your car insurance, and calling up and trying to get better deals. And we just did this exercise recently with about 400 LFC followers. We got them to negotiate on their health insurance with a group we use called Choicey. They're fabulous. And it was like the equivalent of $350,000 they saved just by changing. This one lady was paying $4,000 a year with Bupa, and she found a deal where she was paying $1,200. So that is huge. So that, again, added up over time, that's a few overseas holidays. So they're probably like a couple of areas I would say. So check your savings account, make it high interest if you're needing that money in the short term. If not, think about investing it. Find out where your super is, what fund is it, what fund that money is in, and are you putting enough in? There's a great tool called Super Detective. Just Google Super Detective. You put in your age and it will tell you how much you should have in your super. If you don't have enough, that is absolutely fine. There's so much you can do to top that up, especially if you're a business owner. Have a conversation with your accountant and then negotiate with your suppliers.
Oh, I love all of this. And it doesn't seem that sexy,
Yeah.
but I tell you what, the money that, people work so hard for their money and to get that extra deal. And it's like, oh my gosh, you could be leaving tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table by just not making these simple phone calls and following up. So, Molly, I have loved all of this. It's been a really, really fantastic starting point for the listeners. If people are thinking, "Oh, you know what, I really need some help to go and implement this," how can the Ladies Finance Club help them to do that?
Yes, so absolutely. We have a club, we have a membership. We also can connect you with experts as well. So we're really excited to be launching that platform next month because it's hard to know who to go to and who to trust. So we're like a bunch of amazing financial advisors we love to work with, mortgage brokers, but you can also just get in touch with the team, book in for a quick call, and then we can point you in the right direction as well.
Gorgeous. And just to clarify, you only work with ladies in Australia?
It's mainly ladies in Australia.
Yeah, fabulous, fabulous. Okay, if this sounds exciting to you, I'm going to pop the link in the show notes for today's episode. Molly, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me.